everybody, Gina DeLuca here. All right, I'm going to be trying some new paints today. These are the Prism Pour Ultra Metallics. And the two colors that I've chosen are actually interference colors. You can see the pretty flash of those. And the colors are Minty Tea and Morning Light. So the Minty Tea, I wanted it to be a bit more green. So I added, the smallest, tiniest bit of this phthalo green that I could get out of here and added it to my mix. And it gave it a bit more of a green color. The flash is still very, very visible. It is not hindered at all. It is the smallest amount, and this is a transparent paint. So these interference paints in general are transparent. And so you use them for the effect that they give. It's not necessarily going to add pop to the color of the painting, but when you view it at an angle, it has that beautiful flash. So the purple, it's not a very purple, it's like a hint of purple, but when the light hits it just right, I don't know if I'm getting it in there or not, when it hits it just right, it has that iridescent effect and it's beautiful. I also have the DecoArt Americana Decor Metallics in Amethyst. These are a good cell maker. Never tried them with these paints, with the Prism Pour. I don't know what's gonna happen. We're gonna experiment, but the colors look pretty together, so it should be good regardless. And I have the Liquitex Basics Titanium White. That is going to be my base coat color, and that's gonna be the first color that goes into my cup. I'm going to be doing a straight pour. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. And if it just winds up kind of all mixing together and being very ethereal, I won't be mad at that. I could always embellish it. Yeah, so the consistency that we're working with. So I've mixed these paints 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol until I get the desired consistency, which is about a 2 on my consistency scale. It is making a mound, but it disappears pretty quickly. Nice thin stream coming off of my stick. But that's what we're working with. So 1 part paint, 2 parts Floetrol, and if I need to thin it more, then I add a bit of my 90% water, 10% Floetrol mixture. And that kind of helps to prevent over thinning. Before we get started, have you seen the Fluid Art inspiration cards? If you have, you can fast forward about a minute, but if you have not, what we have are 52 cards. There are 42 technique cards. Each technique card has an associated video here on YouTube that gives you all the information that you need, the exact paint brands, color, consistency, your recipe, and of course, the how to do it. This is a picture of the painting in that video. This box here contains a tip for that particular technique, and here at the bottom, we have the color palette that was used in that particular painting. And then these 2 boxes can be used together as the basis of a 2-color palette, or you could build off of those colors. And there are 8 bonus color palette cards. Each one has 5 color palettes. Use all of the colors, use some of the colors, mix and match the bonus color palettes with the technique cards, and you have more paintings than you could ever create in a lifetime. These are available at my website, ginadeluca.net, and also at amazon.com. And if you get them off of Amazon, please do leave feedback. It is very helpful to the sellers over yonder. Okay, I'm going to put a bit of paint into this cup. I'm going to stop just short of 2 ounces. And I'm going to lay down my base coat. The reason we lay down a base coat is because it helps to, when you're stretching your painting, when you're stretching your poured paint, something has to stick to the canvas first. So if you do not have a base coat, it is the edges of your puddle that will stick to the canvas, and as you tilt, the center of the puddle will start to run over the edges. And some very cool stuff can happen on the edges, and you lose that as an option. And I like to give myself as many options as possible when I'm doing the pour painting, because, you know, things don't always go to plan. And it's nice to give yourself some leeway. If I were not using white, if I were using another color for my base coat, I would cover the edges in that color first, because I don't want the white of the canvas showing through. Straight pours can be kind of thin, especially since I'm using some transparent paints. But since we're using white, I can kind of skip that part. Okay, my base coat is down, and I'm going to pull out old Bernie 2 times here and give these bubbles a pop. I don't want them popping up through my pour later. Better to get them now. And then I'm going to put some paint in a cup. So I'm going to start with the purple iridescent, the interference. Pouring from up high, I want these paints to sink and churn and blend, and that is when I get those cool boulder cells, if I'm going to get them. I am only using one cell maker here, so I may not necessarily get the boulder cells, but I should get cells. And again, from up high, allowing it to churn. So that first color that I put in, next to the white, it looks gray. And most of these, like a shade of gray, most of these interference paints have that slightly grayish look, which is why I added green to this. I wanted to use both of them, but I didn't want the overall color to be gray. So I added just a touch of green, a transparent green, so that the shimmer would still shine through. So if you're going to add colors to your interference paints, or add interference paints to your colors, it will work best with a transparent paint, because it's not going to obscure the shimmer. If I added an interference to titanium white, it's really not going to do very much. Okay, so I'm just going to drizzle what is left in this cup on top. The cell making paints are coming to the top because that's what they do. That's how they make cells. They're coming back to the surface. And I just feel like when I leave just a little bit and add it to the top, it gives all of those paints to have a chance to get that reaction, that hydrophobic reaction, which creates the cells with these matte paints. This is not the Rayleigh Taylor instability. This is a hydrophobic reaction. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of do a straight pour / ring combo, slow ring. as I get closer to the end of the cup, I get closer to the canvas. Gives me a bit more control. And generally, if I am patient about getting to the bottom of the cup, I will get to the last color that was put in the cup. A little bit of that will wind up at the bottom. And so you can get that in your center. Ooh, 10 on that dismount. Okay, I don't breathe when I get to that point. Okay, looking good. I've got some cells popping up here. Gonna pop the bubbles. Popping the bubbles will bring up more cells. The bubbles that are lying underneath the top layer of paint, when they pop, will bring a bit of paint with it. And when that paint is a hydrophobic paint, when you can get that hydrophobic effect. When it's a matte paint, I should say, and you can get that hydrophobic effect, those little bubbles that pop up that create those little tiny cells, they will stretch because the hydrophobic effect is pushing away that glossier paint. And the longer it sits, the more bubbles will pop up. So being patient will definitely serve you here. 'Tis a good thing. Let your paint puddle percolate. Give those cells a chance to come up, or those bubbles a chance to come up so they can become cells when you stretch it. And so the cells that will pop up now, like these cells, I know when I stretch this, these will get bigger and look very cool. And so that's why I like to give them a chance to come up first. You see, every time I pop these bubbles, I'm getting more purple cells in these interference paints. And we'll see if it can push the interference paints away. It's possible it may only react with the white. Maybe the interference paints will interfere with the cell making action in these here parts. But regardless, I have enough interesting stuff going on here that I think, you know, this painting will be very pretty. Once it's dry, like right now, when it's mixed with the Floetrol, or if I use the mixed pouring medium, it's not clear. It has a milky look to it. And so when you add that to your paints, it lightens your paints and it kind of hides some of the shimmer that you'll be able to see once it's dry, because it dries clear. So if you find that you're using, you know, you're adding your pouring medium to your paints, and when your paints dry, they dry super dark, it's because your pouring medium is giving the appearance of lightening that color. So what you can do is add a touch of white to your paint to brighten it up if it's drying too dark. Like dioxazine purple, sometimes, like I have two paintings next to each other, one with the dioxazine purple as the background and one with black, and you can barely tell the difference between the two. So if I want a brighter purple, I will add a bit of white to it. If I want something that's almost black but not quite black, then I just use the straight dioxazine. Okay, I should note that I am hoping and planning on doing a couple of paintings today because I'm going out of town and I won't be able to paint. but I also don't want to fall into the algorithm purgatory. You know how that goes. So this is actually leveled for that side of the table. That's why it's going this way. Always, always, always level your canvas with an actual level, not your eyeballs. Your eyeballs will lie to you. This technique does create a lot of bubbles because of all of the churning that is going on. All right. Let's give this a tilt, shall we? Which direction? I might actually go this way first. Switch it up. So tilting slowly is going to be your friend. Even if you have a base coat, if you find that your inner rings are rolling over top of your outer rings, you're tilting too quickly. Okay. And remember to bring your paint back to center before changing direction. But I think I'm just going to come straight across. The first corner is always the hardest. Well, the last corner can kind of be a pain too. But as far as like how much paint you wind up dripping off your canvas, the first corner, you're gonna lose the most paint. And so you can use a corner catcher, which is just like a piece of cardboard that you wrap around the edge, just to keep too much of that paint from falling off. But I have enough paint on this canvas. I'm not worried about running out. Okay, as you can see, I brought the paint back to center again. Actually, hold the phone. Now we're centered. So the weight of the paint is going to be where your paint is moving the fastest. And by being mindful of where that is, I need to slow down. See, my center's getting a little wonky. I'm tilting too quickly. So if you're mindful of where the center of your paint is, or where the weight of your paint is, you can really control your composition. Like, I could tilt just off of the middle if I wanted. If there was just one little section that I didn't like, I would be able to rid myself of that. Now the last corner is gonna feel like it's taking a million years, but it will get there. Come on, baby. This is why I said the last corner can be a pain too. just because it takes a long time. But patience is your friend. Come on. There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to bring the weight of the paint back to the center. I want to stretch out the side that I just tilted, because I do see some cell action happening in there. Want to maximize that. I love some of this ethereal stuff that's going on with those interference paints. I'm still seeing cells popping up. The more you, in a straight pour, the more you stretch it, the more likely you are to get those pop-up cells. So there's boulder cells, which are the ones that wind up getting big and they are fully formed before you start tilting. And then there are the pop-up cells, which often appear around the edges where the paint gets stretched the thinnest. And generally I get, when I do a straight pour, boulder cells on, like just like a plain straight pour, which I'm kind of wishing I had done instead of the rings. Whatever. But generally I'll get the boulder cells on this side and pop-up cells on this side. So I see some purples popping up here. Let me just give this side in particular a bit of a torch. Let those purple pop-up cells happen, hopefully. And I'm only torching where I want pop-up cells. Kind of wishing I hadn't torched there. I liked that the way it was. Okay, I'm going to let this sit and see what it does, and I will bring you in for a close-up. Back in a few. Okay, here it is. There is some beautiful lines going on in here. I love the blending of colors. And unfortunately, this camera is not picking up these colors the way you would like to. The shimmer isn't really showing, but it is very shimmery. But there it is. I am an affiliate for ColourArte and DecoArt, so if you wanted to grab yourself some of these paints, you can check out the description box below for the links to the websites and also the coupon code. So do grab that, and I receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. Also in the description box, you'll find the links to my PayPal tip jar if you feel so inclined. You can see the edges of drying a little bit. Once this is varnished, it will look completely different. Even more beautiful. But yeah, also in the description box you'll find the links to my website, GinaDeLuca.net, where you can find my art and music and the fluid art inspiration cards for sale. And also our Facebook group. Go make some art, join us there, post your masterpieces, ask your questions, get some inspiration. A good time is had by most. It is the internet after all. Okay, I think that's it. I feel like I'm forgetting something. But anywho, check out the description box. Everything's in there. I hope y'all have a beautiful day. Now go make some art.